Preach, you had something that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, I wanted to show you something.
Nah, again. Nah. Whoa. I got it. Ooh, bro, that's a Nerf gun game. Look at y'all fiending, bro. Y'all fiending. Got nothing in here, gang. That's a Nerf gun game. Come on, gang. But that's my phone. No, that's not my phone. Bro, bro.
Gold is crazy.
Yeah, but
Nah,
bring him back to the car. We'll take him back.
Bring him to the car for what? To the car for what? Nah, gang. Nah. Y'all taking him in for a Nerf gun?
The first thing I think, either the parents failed or he didn't listen to his parents. That's my first thought. Because I think, like, from a young age, me and my mom had, my mom and I didn't talk at all when I was a kid, but I remember distinct conversations about how to behave in regards to law enforcement and what you can't do. And especially as a black person, like, that was a common thing. And it's just one of those things where it's like, you can't walk around with a gun or toy gun. You couldn't pretend. Don't hang around the wrong people who are clearly doing drugs or selling that shit. And so knowing all these conversations, him walking around with a gun that looks like that, it just, to me, is like, now I understand young people are going to do dumb shit, so that's fine. But I think that's a bit beyond the pale of running around with a replica-looking gun.
But they're
especially
nerfing.
in a country where
Do you know what nerfing? Do you know what nerfing is?
Is it when they go around shooting other like gang members with guns?
No, nerfing is when you're so old.
Yeah. But there was a story. Do you know what I'm talking about? There's a story where a bunch of gang members were shooting each other with paintball guns.
Yeah, but you know it's when they have Nerf guns and they're just play. A bit like cowboys and paintball or BB guns. They're playing that, but with Nerf guns. So that's what it is. That's what they were just nerfing. Yeah. Some people would say, well, they're just playing. Why are you tripping?
Well, I mean, I think it's just a very obvious one. We all grew up with a bunch of cases. Tamir Rice is a great example. Kid playing around in a park with what appears to be a toy gun, 13, 14. Cop rolls up on him in 2 seconds, shoots him, guns him down. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, I don't think that Tamir was guilty. He's a kid playing with a toy gun. But unfortunately, we just live in a society where, first off, as a man, already people are going to look at you completely different when they don't know if it's a gun or not. And then secondly, being black, like there's an extra level of like, So I would never counsel any of my kids. Like even if I adopted kids, let's say I adopted a beautiful little Korean baby. Okay, maybe he's ugly, who knows? Maybe he's never going to make it in a K-pop band. But he's my little Korean baby. I'm going to teach him the same concepts about guns and stuff like that because just as men in general, you're kind of just viewed as a threat. So you just can't afford to say, I'm a kid, it just don't work like that. And it's just not worth the risk. So unfortunate because we should live in a world where you can, but unfortunately with gun violence and all the things that are involved, even here, because a lot of kids here shoot each other. Yeah. How many times do we hear stories about young kids doing these like 3D printing guns and blasting other kids?
The ghost guns.
And when your guns look very close, even when they don't, I wouldn't recommend it. But when they do, I can't say nothing.
And the thing that happened is that some people in the comments are like, yeah, but you're Canadian. You people first don't even know what's going on here. You guys don't know what's going on in Canada. You don't see that we have gangs, we have gang violence, we have Crips and Bloods, and we have other kind of gangs that are going on in the streets and are shooting each other. And when you're that old, you have to, there's an age, unfortunately, where black kids become a threat. Well, they look like they become a threat. You go from cute to being a threat. And walking around with a gun, no matter what color it is, even like some people are going to argue that, oh, well, there was not the orange tip on it. Depending on what angle the orange tip is for the people you're aiming it at. Depending from what angle you have, I'm probably not going to see that tip. Pause.
And you're talking about kids.
Yes, big pause. For example, I am into guns, but you do gun customization all the time. It's not something that is rare to see that you see different colors on guns. So the fact that a gun was golden or yellow, whatever, doesn't matter. I've seen gun that color. There's guns different colors that are in plastic. Glocks, for the most part, and some kind of polymer that is plastic. That's besides the point. Mm-hmm. Sometimes from afar, the gun is not going to look like a gun, but it's going to be a real gun. And sometimes the real gun's going to look like a toy gun, and the toy gun's going to look like a real gun. That's besides the point. Is that at some point, you cannot just be out there with someone that even looks like it. I don't know if it's because my parents traumatized me enough. I remember one time there was a phone case. There was a phone case that was really like it was a phone case normal, and it was a gun. and you put it in your pocket and it looks like you had a gun. That's a bad idea. That is appetite for destruction. When you said it's either he's not listening to his parents or his parents failed you, I agree.
Yeah.
At some point, your responsibility, because your kid is not going to think or see past what the problem was. I was just playing. We ain't doing nothing back, and you're not going to think about the consequences.
There's a comment that someone wrote. They said in the live stream chat, they said, they're not 12, they're not minors. And I always find it fascinating how quickly someone's no longer a kid, depending on the nature of the offense. Right? Like if I come out tomorrow and say I'm banging a 14-year-old, y'all never going to say, oh, they're not minors. You're going to say I'm a pedo and everything under the sun.
100%.
But if that same 14-year-old does something idiotic, which most teenagers that age do, then you're going to say they're not a minor. And it is fascinating how, like, Dave Chappelle has this joke about how, like, how old is 15 really? I love that joke because he points out to a real truth where, a young kid can go out and engage in violence, and apparently they have the wherewithal and they should be tried as an adult and given the maximum sentence. And then on the other hand, if a 15-year-old's dating someone who's 20, then it's the end of the world. They have no wherewithal. They can't make any decisions. And it's fascinating how we often treat adolescents as adults when it's convenient for us, when we want to punish them. But when we're actually in a situation where we should have that same attitude, we don't engage in it. And I don't want us to treat 15-year-olds like adults. But all of a sudden, the moment they do something violent, especially when the look of the child isn't the right one, then all of a sudden they're an adult.
They're adult. They're not kids anymore.
And they have like studies on this, how like black offenders often get charged as adults much more often than white offenders, right? And it's just like there is these biases that we play into our heads about who's a threat, who we should punish a little bit more. And I'm just not very fond of that. I'm not very fond of that kind of stuff, and I think people are very dishonest with themselves when they're pretending like there isn't some racial or gender-based bias. Okay, there is.
Because with women, sometimes they're always kids.
Yeah.
They're kids until they're kids no more. But the man, depending on what they do.
Like, I'm going to be honest with you guys. You guys know me now as an adult, and you guys have known me, like, from 27 onward. As a teenager, like, I'm on my business. I be at home. I go to work. I go to school. Well, I don't anymore.
No, definitely not.
That's not true. Yeah, I go to school on them red pill niggas and I clown them. But outside of that, I don't really do
You
any
mean
kind
you
of
take them to school?
Yeah.
But in order to take them to school,
But you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
all right. Don't try to clarify my bar.
I'm not. Oh,
I could care less.
Now, when I was a teenager, like that was a phase of my life at 15, 16, where I wasn't a good kid. You get into fights a lot, you get arrested, and my parents had to come get me out of jail. And it's like, it's an embarrassing, especially from an immigrant household where it's like Malsine. There was a lot of those problems, okay? And thankfully, after 18, get in the military, sort my life out, work on those anger issues. I never had problems with violence after that, and I'm very happy to stay away from that part of my life. But the idea that somebody would have looked at me at 15 and tried to judge me as an adult, if you ever put yourself back into those shoes of being a teenager, we were all we were all doing really stupid shit. Most of us have stories of times where like, I probably should have died that night. And the idea we're going to look at that period and we're always going to just pick and choose whenever that 15-year-old is an adult or not, it's very bizarre. Because if we're honest, we were I was a for a long time, but that period especially, like you're full of hormones, you're not thinking anything through. I don't know. I just don't like the way we afford grace when it's convenient when it comes to like sex-related stuff. But everything else, you're apparently old and mature enough. So you're mature and old enough to like manage anger and violence, but you're not mature enough for any sex, even with people the same age. I don't know. To me, it's just a bit stupid, these standards. And I'm only here today because they treated me like a juvenile and I was able to turn my life around. As an adult, I was given the chance to actually man up and be mature, and I took those opportunities. But you guys don't want to afford some kids that same opportunity for your arbitrary double standard. I just don't rock with it.